Hidden Layers. Meet the people behind the data with Uri Elabayev.
So hi, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a great honor to have you. Please introduce yourself and then we'll be able to start.
So my name is John Abel. I'm the managing director in the office of the CTO, called Octo for short. We are an engineering group. I work into the CTO of Google Cloud, which is Will Granis, and I look after all of the people in EMEA, including people that I have in Israel as well.
Mm-hmm. Perfect, amazing. Can you share a little bit more about the role, what you're doing as part of the job, what are the criteria you're applying to?
So when Octo was set up, there was a need for us to have senior technical leaders that engage with customers. And it's interesting when we say to customers, because people naturally would go and say the largest customers or the customers with, the most vocal. But actually, most of our work comes through challenging engineering problems. So the size of the customer is always taken into consideration, but we generally work with people who've got interesting engineering problems. Because you think about like technology, you have a customer has a problem, you have a product, and then you have the middle bit. Yeah. We focus on the middle bit. So we work with customers on resolving complex engineering problems. The second thing we do is we do a lot of research into various bits of technology. This could be some of the things we're doing now, like sovereign AI. We're doing things around exascale and quantum. And we're also doing things like agentic agents. So there's different projects that we have ongoing. We work with research, we work with engineering. I suppose the secret sauce of Octo is that we are across everything that Google Cloud does and wider. So we go into, and we sort of sit in the spot, we sit in a wave that is like, if it's in the next year, engineering already know about it. If we look at the sort of 3 to 5 years, research will know about it. Yeah. And there's this bit in the middle where can Octo sweep ahead of the business to answer complex engineering problems that helps engineering get insight for the future product. Because we don't own a product. Yeah. We're an engineering group that don't own a product. But in that time, we've done various bits of work. So some of the work I did when I first joined was the modernization strategy back in 2019. I worked on the partnership with Oracle, obviously because I used to be from Oracle. So a lot of these projects are very much, you hear about it several years later. Even to the point I did the sovereign strategy, worked as part of the group on that back in 2020. When we talked about software sovereignty, we talked about, obviously, operational sovereignty and data sovereignty. A lot of that pre-work was done by Octos and very many other Googlers.
Oh, amazing. You mentioned the agentic platform.
Yes.
And this is something that has a lot of engineering aspects, not only, let's say, the technical AI, but also the engineering, how you orchestrate, how you make it work, how do you know that everything is running? So even if like the AI model is perfect, you still have a lot of moving parts to orchestrate and work around it. Can you share a little bit what your perspective on that, or what have you done in that field?
Well, the first thing is, Will, quite a lot of months ago, decided that we would become a Google agent-based agentic business in Octo. So, and what that allowed us to do is create business agents or agentic agents for running our business side. So we have internally. So we have certain things like our customer reviews, our engineering reviews, and we have our own software engineers. We built our own agentic agents that helps us not only see, because a lot of the things with agents and agentic agents, the technology, especially like this week with Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform, that is now much more, it's easier to get started. You can vibe pretty much any agent you want now. The scaffolding took a little bit of work, and that's what I took away from the keynote from Thomas and the dev keynote. The pipeline now for doing vibing and agentic agents is much cleaner than it's ever been. The thing we're finding, though, is the human side of it also is a very serious consideration. Because when you're dealing with anything of change, and it doesn't matter if it's AI or agentic agents, there's 3 things that I typically see you've got to make sure you invest time in. 1, is biased.
Yeah.
Everybody has a level of bias. You know, if we said to the wonderful listeners of your channel and said, like, how did they find your actual information, they'd all have a different route to it. Mm-hmm. Some would use Google search, some may just find you on YouTube. But fundamentally, everybody has a different journey. The thing that we're finding, though, is that we've always talked about removing negative bias, because negative bias in AI creates, you know, sort of skewed results. So your evaluations, your eval needs to be. But also bias is helpful because it gives you different opinions and different views, which means you have a better breadth of quality. Mm-hmm. So it's not a simple case that all bias is bad. So
it's like a mutation.
Correct.
Some of the mutations are
correct. Then what you've got is beliefs. Mm-hmm. You know, I always say to companies, when you get into agents and you get into agentic agents and you're moving into this, you're going from like the pilot to production, you would typically find that a business needs to be really clear on what they're going to be famous for. Because what you want to do is have your talent working on the bits that's unique to what you want to be famous for. And you want then agents to be famous for the things you don't want to be famous for. Okay. So toil, friction. Mm-hmm. And actually, when we did the agents with Inside Octo, we found that AI really gave us two big capabilities that we knew about, but we didn't really know how to like harness. One was, if we have toil or friction, use agents and AI to engineer it out for lasting value. Okay. We learned that from site reliability engineering. Site reliability engineering have a practice that if you spend more than 50% of your time on something, engineer it out for lasting value. So we copied that.
To the agentic.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing we copied is an agent is amazing to get beyond human scale.
Can you repeat? Agent is?
Agents are amazing at getting beyond human scale. So if I had something I was doing and I wanted to scale it, well, that's when AI can be a very helpful tool to get to scale. All right. Because I can do now many more things at scale.
Once you know the process. Correct. As a human being.
Correct. Okay. So if you think about Israel is like a massive tech hub. Mm-hmm. You know, whenever I've gone to Tel Aviv and I've sat there, and I just like get so impressed with like the breadth and depth of engineering quality. Mm-hmm. You know, if you think of some of the most amazing companies that are in, especially security, Israel is the most renowned hub for it. We're in an era now where they could build something in an engineering team, a small engineering team, using AI and agents, and basically scale it anywhere on the planet, beyond human scale. I don't need to have a huge amount of humans to make me scale. Mm-hmm. So those are the two things you do. The last one we haven't talked about is probably the one that is super important to understand, is culture.
Culture.
So we talk about bias, beliefs, and then culture. The challenge a lot of people are working through is we've had a career based on logic that we've implemented. So if I do computer science, I should do computer science at school, at college, and then go and get a degree in computer science, and then I'll become a computer science engineer. Mm-hmm. The same as a lawyer or anything. But that industrialized process sets certain policy. We're now in an era where we can be much more creative. Yeah. Which means it's breaking some of those understandings of, if I do this if I follow this logic, I get to this end result. What we're actually saying is, now with AI, you're much more of sort of like creative skills need to be enhanced. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm super excited about with agentic agents, is the human side of it for the positives. You know, a lot of people talk about the negatives. I talk about the positive. I mean, you know, I'm dyslexic, and it's well known. Mm-hmm. My reading and writing is pretty poor. And in this era, all of my struggles with reading and writing, I have agents that do that for me now. Yeah. And that means that I can focus on the things I want to be famous for. Yes. And so to your first question, which is a very long answer, is important to think about bias, beliefs, and culture. If you do that wisely, AI becomes a lot easier to work with.
It's amazing you mentioned those three words. We are talking about engineering, and these three words are really human. And
Yes.
you need to have the same philosophy. And this is something what people miss in agents, because agents itself working really closely with humans, they
Yes.
coexist. And you need to have those, let's say, pillars in order to make them actually work in
Yes.
this coexisting environment. And this leads me to the other question. How do you eval agents? I will share a story. Once I was in a new building.
Yes.
And I asked some lady, where is the restroom? And she told me, okay, go straight and then right, and you will find that. I said, okay. I went left and right. And then I said, the ladies' room. And then it's like in a blink of an eye, I said, wow, this is a great lesson for agents, because she gave me a right answer. It was right for her. The step-in was right. I got, but this is not what I needed. And this is like an amazing example how you can make the job done, but it's not what you wanted. And this is making me say, okay, how do you even evaluate the agents and what they are doing? If it's really hard even for humans to just evaluate not a single outcome. Like say you have a prompt, you can evaluate the answer, but how do you evaluate a process that has a lot of changing parts?
This is probably the most fascinating bit. The thing we talk about in Octo constantly is simulation and evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about like the best agents, we were talking before we started this about this atomic agent. It's a specific task. Of course, with that, your simulation and your evaluation is much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
The smaller the task, the smaller the simulation, the smaller the eval.
Yeah.
So breadth of an agent is sort of like, you want to keep it to the smallest breadth you can.
Yes.
The other thing you've got to do, I'll give 3 things for your audience, which I think we forget about. AI is a probability of right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So in business today, there will be a human error level. How many businesses track their human error level?
Fair point, yeah.
The next thing is, what's the acceptable agent error level? Because with AI, there is a probability it could be wrong. And people say to me, I want it to be 100%. Well, if it's 100%, it's a rule.
Yeah.
It's not.
We are less forgiving.
Correct.
For agent error humans.
So once you decide that's my human error level, that's my agent error level, then what you've got to do is not monitor an agent. You need to observe an agent.
All right.
Because that route to the toilet, observing the path you went, why you went there, you would say, right, that was human in the loop would say, right, that is out the incorrect answer. You should have gone right and then left.
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
It depends on the context that you have.
Correct.
If you add the context that I'm a male.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it's the same as I do this in keynotes. I use with the Formula E work that we do. I use the Berlin track, and I want to show a correct answer, but in context, not correct. So I take the Berlin racetrack, the image, put it into, and you can do this with any model. It doesn't have to be Gemini, but put it in, and I say, what track is this? Right. And it comes up and says, it will come up with someone like Hungary. And the reason why is there is more parameters talking about, like, with a Hungary racetrack than the Berlin Formula E racetrack. So there's more data aspects. So that data said, right, this is definitely Hungary. And then you go, no, it's Formula E. Oh, this is definitely Berlin. And then you go, how many corners has it got? And you go, 14.
Yeah.
Now, that's correct. All of this is correct, by the way.
Yes.
But that's wrong, because the track I gave it was the design from 2020, which is 10 corners. But the human in the loop's gift is actually nudging left and right based on the context.
Yeah.
So then that leads to probably the most important point. Who is the biggest beneficiary of AI and agents? Is the knowledge expert.
Yeah. Well, I super agree. This is what I tell everyone in my workshop and lectures. Do not use AI in a space that you're not an expert.
Correct.
And it's really, for what you said, if you are really good at what you are doing, the result and the outcome of you using AI, it's mind-blowing. Because many people ask me on my job, I can do that with AI, but go ahead, give it a try. You will never have the same outcome as I, as a domain expert.
Yes.
And I totally agree with that.
Yes. And this is why education is still critical. There's no, when I do a Christmas lecture every year, and I say to the students, under no circumstance use this to cheat.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're cheating your future career.
Exactly.
Yeah. What you've got to do is use it to explore, learn, experiment at a speed that you've never done before.
Exactly.
So what it means, you can adapt much quicker, you can be more flexible, and you can have a much more wider learning brief. But if you cheat, you are cheating yourself for the rest of your career.
Exactly.
So, but use that free time you have now to enable you to even go deeper.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting that, I graduated. Now, they can't see me on your channel, so they're now having a little view of who is this guy. So I graduated in 2023 with a degree. So I'm technically probably still an intern. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that the education that I did was breadth. Yeah. But because of AI, I could go depth across the breadth. Yeah. So rather than being someone that said, right, I'm going to follow the curriculum, when I got bits where I go, what does that actually really mean? Yeah. I would go deep, 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 deep. Yeah. But I would use AI to go deep, 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 deep. And go, exactly. That's what it means. So I was more of a cube than a line.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is something that I have small kids, and I'm thinking about of how I'm going to educate them in the field of not only AI, but the trajectory of how humans are going to digest information. Yeah. I call that way. It's making me realize that you need to go back to the basics of how you understand information, how you process it. And then once you control that, only then you are able to go and use AI in a broader way. And there's some examples, sometimes you have to really see the data. Now I have a small child that is 7 years old, really like math, doing multiplication and all this, but you need to witness how you play with the numbers, how you feel them. You find like a new relationships between numbers when you multiply, divide. And then only you can use a calculator once you had that experience and you manage to immerse and grasp everything. And I think this is how it's related to our conversation, that we will have the same with AI. We will need to have a deep understanding of the data, deep understanding of the domain, deep understanding of the process. And only then we will be able to fully harness the power of AI.
Yeah, which goes right back to your point about evaluation.
Exactly.
I spend the majority of my time curating data that can allow me to do the best evaluation. The actual coding bit is really easy these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I can buy all of my early experiments. But I have to do good cited data. I have to do good cited research, because that is all the critical aspects. Because the more time you put in there, if you, it's no different to any other job. If you speak to someone painting a car, the art of the painting part is the smallest. The preparation is everything.
Exactly.
And that's what's no different in AI.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is something that, even nowadays with the models are super advanced, it's really hard to make them repeatable, explainable. I now have like a side quest that I'm doing. I'm starting to research how skills are being optimized on different models. Yeah. And I came to realize that sometimes you need to have a skill written for a specific model. And if you change something in the skill, it doesn't affect on models in the same way. And the majority of my work was try to figure out the eval of the models and how you can ensure that this specific skill is being trajected rightly. And I saw, for example, I have like skill that is summarizing. And one of the, let's say, basic line is, don't make it more than 200 words. And you'll be amazed on how many models fail on that. And then I realized I need to have like LLM method judge that will check if it's the summarizing makes sense, but also like really simple deterministic way to evaluate, just count the words if it's make 200. Because if it's 200, no matter how good it was, it doesn't matter. And this is something that I see many organizations now struggling. As you said, what is the best way to eval? How I can make it predictable, the eval, not only the result, but how I know that the job is done.
Yeah, it's a really good point. The first thing is understand how language models work.
Yeah.
Because the evaluation needs to be based on the model context. And I always say to people that aren't experts of language models, and obviously listening to your audience, it could be experts, could be people who are earlier in their career, it could be people who are early in their knowledge. I always say that language models are like a library. When you walk through the door of the library, you go up to the desk, you talk to the librarian and say, I need a book on this. You go and open up the book, you read a paragraph, and you interpret it out in your way. That is no different to a language model, that the parameters determine the shelves that will be executed.
Oh, nice.
So you go into the library and you go up to the librarian, which is called a prompt. You put a question in. The library shelf gets activated. And we've been tuning how the library shelves are activated with a mixture of experts and elements like that. And it brings out the information that answers your question. And then it writes what it believes is the output prompt. The trick is making sure that when you put your evaluation data in, you're getting consistency in the way the evaluation is being performed by the parameters, because that gets repeatability. Yeah. Which then goes right back to where we started, is if you can get an atomic piece of information about an atomic piece of data, then your evaluation is a much less broader. Yeah. Because you're accessing a similar amount of parameters each time. And I also say to people, avoid doing things like fine tuning.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Model Pacific.
Okay.
I actually find that the prompt engineering, I read somewhere, I can't remember what it was, that prompt engineering is a short time piece of work. It's not going to be around for too long. Actually, I do a lot of my time in prompt engineering. Yeah. And the more time I store my favorite prompt structures. I have a catalog of prompt structures that I could store. So I don't have to start from scratch. The other thing that I've been doing more recently is, as data is getting ingested, I start actually ingestion point saying what questions can be answered by this data.
Nice. So you're going from the data to the
vice versa. So in the data pipeline, I'm actually getting a curation of all the questions. Because then what you can do is, when you have all the questions this data can answer, then you can say, that's the first evaluation of the prompts that I should be able, because what I should be able to do is, I then go in and say, answer these questions that you've told me you can answer. And then I can evaluate the response, say, yeah, you're pretty good.
Wow, this is clever.
Yeah, those are the techniques you can do in the world we live today. And it's a super simple technique. You can do it, take it into AI Studio, take it into Gemini, take it in Notebook LM. You can take it into Gemini Enterprise, say, here's the data, tell me all the questions you can answer, and then take those questions and say, now answer them, and then evaluate those answers.
It's like a classifier of knowledge, what the model can actually do. You can just the classification, the questions. Yes. Wow. Yes. And it's worked, the decision and recall of those things.
Well, the nice thing is you can ask it you can have different angles of attack to the data. So you see this set of questions come out, and you go, okay, if you can answer, could you answer this? And you give it another lens in, and you do 7 or 8 of those different courses against.
And it's calibrated.
You get like, if you want to find the point on a map, and you draw a line through it, you don't know where you are on the line. The minute you draw another line across it, you've now got an X marks the spot.
Exactly.
The more lines you get across it, the more precision you get, the better the evaluation of it.
Nice.
So we're in a world where actually I have now agents that, as I go through and load up data, it's asking the data that's been asked, the questions this can answer, to try to find the crosshair of good evaluation.
Wow, really interesting. But you said that you don't believe in fine-tuning, but let's say I gather a lot of questions and answers.
Yes.
I do this process for like a month, a year, whatever. Yes. And I get like 1,000 good examples, answering questions. Why won't I be just fine-tuned for even a smaller model that is faster, more accurate? So don't you think this approach could work?
Yeah, okay. It could work. But I suppose the thing is that the bit that I think we're moving into is the layered questions. If I go houses, my first layer, this is all my house, weather, roads. So I'm creating now layers of data. The individual layer questions are different to the vertical questions. Because
you ask about what is the weather, where is the road?
Yes.
And then you ask, what is the fastest?
What's the likelihood of rain?
Yeah. And
I need all the levels. So when you're evaluating horizontally in a layered stack and vertically.
Oh, this is deep. I really like that.
But if you do this well, the actual time to create eval data is becoming shorter and shorter.
Because you're doing all that layers and you're running it fast.
Correct.
Instead of just trying to evaluate everything.
Yes.
So this is getting back to what you said at the beginning, the atomic.
Yes. Wow. So I atomically break down my data as well. I break everything down into an atomic level, because the more I do that, the more preciseness I have in my evaluation.
Wow.
And then I simulate like crazy.
Nice. I'm learning a lot.
There we go. Yeah. Has that been helpful?
Super helpful, yeah. I'm thinking when I get back home to try everything you said, from the embedding of the vectors that you said at the beginning, and also the idea right now is super, super
And that's probably the final point, which is anybody's listening to this, the best thing you can do today is open up a screen and give it a go.
Yeah, just try.
Go back to school and learn.
Exactly. I really like it. We have few minutes. I want to ask you about the future. What do you think will be the future of agentic, but specific in enterprise? Do you think we will coexist? The agents will do everything. Human won't trust. How we will measure ROI even? So, what is perspective on that?
The reality is, when I started my career in the 80s, the jobs that were there, programmer, COBOL programmer, system analyst, they don't necessarily exist now. You know, we now, what's quite interesting actually, I did some work recently. It looked at the jobs when I started my career, and they were very function-based career jobs. And then I said, what jobs have appeared now that didn't exist in the 80s? And they were very much creative jobs.
Like what?
Yourself. You know, you do podcasts. You do media creator. You try to do the job you do today back in the 80s. Exactly.
Doesn't make sense.
You can't.
Physically again.
A web designer didn't exist back then.
Right.
That creative skill of web designing. A stack developer didn't exist back then. The ability to be an AI data scientist didn't exist back then. Yeah. But the thing that was quite interesting is when I started collating the jobs of the past were much more functional based, much more structured. The jobs that we have now are much more creative. So my belief is that we're going to see more and more creative type aspects appear, where the ecosystem of industry will explode in the amount of businesses created to answer niche problems or niche challenges, because the time to create something is going to be much shorter. So I think there's going to be an explosion of because of things like agentic agents, an explosion of opportunity for all. And I'm quite positive about that. Now, the next question is, well, if agents now can do it, what do the people do?
Yeah.
Well,
what we should do with all this spare time?
It was quite strange for me, because when I started removing things from my coding day job and I started looking at what I was doing then, I was experimenting much more to find more opportunities. And if you think about life, you have a big haystack of life, and in there's a couple of needles that you want to find. And that's the bits you remember. It's called the career moments. You know, I did this on that. I think people are going to have many more career moments. I think the stack is your life, but the needles in the hack's going to be more plentiful. And the thing we can't do is stop. Don't use this time to just be efficient. Use this time to be creative and create new opportunities for your companies.
And to explore, yeah.
And I think that the people who are going to be the most, actually we already know this, the people who are going to be the most, I would say, valuable to a company are the people where they adapt to using AI, agentic agents, and they use their skill of creativity and its problem solving. The blend of the technology and the human together will be the power of this outcome.
Yeah. Wow, this is amazing. A very optimistic approach, and I really like that.
Oh, I'm super positive.
Because there are a lot of people who think that, we are doomed and the entire market's going to fall because of
history lesson 2 for the audience. Yeah. I'm a blacksmith.
Wow.
Outside of work, I do blacksmith, and I like history. I'm married to an historian.
Wow.
And she told me a story once about the Black Country in the UK. So back in the 18th century, the Black Country used to have blacksmiths that made nails and made chains. The Industrial Revolution came along and that totally got automated. That industry died overnight, within 2 years.
Yeah, relatively fast, yeah.
Yeah, which is really fast.
Yeah.
But what came out of that? Cadbury's, Jaguar Land Rover, and numerous different elements of business opportunities that didn't exist before. Why? Because the people had the energy to carry on doing things. And they found, with their skills of being creative, industrialized, they took that new wealth of experience and pivoted it to something else.
Amazing.
And this is no different to what we're going through now. The thing that we've got to realize, I always say to everybody, be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the era we're in now.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable every day.
Yeah, no one knows the answer.
No, but I'm excited every day because of the things that we could do.
Wow, this is amazing, and thank you. It was fascinating. I learned a lot, and looking forward to just try everything you mentioned.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.